So, Ronny Shields, legendary trainer and current trainer of 160-pound WBC champ Jermall Charlo, says ain't no way in hell they gonna fight Demetrius Andrade under no circumstances. We're gonna get into that right after this. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Trilly Trills, and welcome to A-Side Boxing Talk. So, yesterday, man, there was an interview put out by Fight Hype with legendary trainer Ronny Shields, man. Just kind of talking about Jermall Charlo, you know, post the Montiel fight, and what was planned next, and you know, just kind of, you know, just a little interview with Ronny Shields, man. But it was one part of that interview that kind of stuck out to me, you know. So not one part, but a couple parts. So he spoke about Benavidez. And he said something that I think a lot of casual fans don't want to hear. He said, you know, Benavidez don't got shit to offer us. And that's a fact. I mean, David Benavidez was a champion at 168, two-time, right? The first time he lost it, you know, because he popped positive for cocaine. The second time he lost it on a scale in the same night in which nobody else, you know, missed weight. And so at the end of the day, granted, David Benavidez, he's a fan-friendly fighter. He is a great fighter. But at the end of the day, David Benavidez only has David Benavidez to blame for him not having a title, for him not being able to bring anything to the table. And that's something that a lot of boxing casuals don't want to get into. So with Ronny Shields saying that, you know, Benavidez don't bring shit to the table, he's a nobody, he's correct. I mean, he is the #1 contender, you know, the mandatory or #1 contender with the WBC for the Canelo's belt for that 168-pound title. But at the end of the day, when you're talking about David Benavidez and Jermall Charlo, there's really no, unless Jermall Charlo is going to vacate at 160 and move up to 168 and challenge for that #1 contender position, there's really no reason for them two to fight. I mean, I've always thought the same. So that's that, really. But what really struck me and what was really interesting to me is the fact that Ronny Shields said that Ronny Shields said that Jermall Charlo will never fight Demetrius Andrade. Never. You know, but Demetrius Andrade was contracted to fight Jermall Charlo at 154 when Andrade had the WBO belt, if I'm not mistaken. I believe he said he switched promoters. He ended up going with Jay-Z. Jay-Z said he didn't like the fight, so Andrade pulled out of that fight. So here we are, at least 4 years later, and you got Jermall Charlo with the WBC strap. You got Andrade with the WBO strap. You got Charlo with nobody to fight unless he's waiting on the Canelo. I mean, obviously he's waiting on the Canelo fight, but nobody else at 160 to fight. And at 160, I mean, you got what, 4 champions? You got Murata, you got Golovkin, Charlo, and Andrade. Those are the 4 champions at 160. So we know that Golovkin is not going to fight Charlo. We know because Golovkin won't even fight Andrade. So we know that he's not going to get that belt. We know that Charlo is not going to fight Andrade. So then the question becomes, who is Jermall Charlo going to fight? I mean, we just witnessed Jermall Charlo go for greatness fighting Brian Castano. I mean, granted, you know, they both came up short. It was a draw. Great fight. I think it should have been a draw. If you really watch that fight and you really know boxing, you really can dissect boxing. Just because a fighter's being aggressive and throwing a bunch of punches, if you throw 8 punches and you only land 2, yeah, it's aggression, but it's not effective. You know, boxing, one of the scoring criteria is effective aggression, not just walking forward. But again, a lot of casuals won't understand that, and I'm not here for a casual to understand. But going back to Jermall Charlo, when you look at the rankings, or you even go through the WBC rankings, obviously Canelo is still the franchise champion at middleweight for the WBC. Jermall Charlo is the current champion at 160. But then you go through the rankings and you start to look at the rankings of who's there in the WBC at 160 for Jermall Charlo to fight. The #1 contender for the middleweight title is Jaime Munguia. who fights for Golden Boy and is on DAZN, Matchroom DAZN. Okay, that's not gonna happen. So his number one contender, he'll never fight because he fight for a different promoter in a different network. So that's not gonna happen. You look at number 2, Sergey Derevyanchenko. Charlo already beat the shit out of Derevyanchenko. You know what I'm saying? He dominated Derevyanchenko, made him look bad, to be honest. So that fight's not there. You go to number 3. You got a Russian guy. I can't even pronounce his name, but you got a Russian guy that's 10-0. That fight could possibly happen. I don't know what network that guy fights on. And then you got your number 4 person. You got Selecki there. Selecki, 29-2. He did lose to Andrade, but I think he's on DAZN as well. So we may or may not see that fight. You go down to number 5. You got Liam Williams, also lost to Andrade. Number 6, you got Montiel, who Jermall Charlo just fought. And then after that, we got a bunch of no names. So the point is of this whole video is just that what are we gonna do at 160? It's already been shown as far as I'm not saying fighter wise, right? Because Jermall Charlo, Jermall Charlo is probably the best fighter at 160, no question. In my opinion, no question. You're probably one of the best, top 2, right? Between him and Andrade, my personal opinion. But what are we going to do at 160? 160 is middleweight, which is, always been one of the best divisions in boxing. It's literally one of the weakest divisions in boxing. I mean, you got 135, the lightweight division that's better than the middleweight division. The heavyweight division that's better than the middleweight division. The super welterweight division, 154, that's better than the middleweight division. You got the welterweight division that's better than 160. I mean, and so you just got a lot of you got a weak division as far as fights being made. So it's just very puzzling as far as going into the future for what Jermall Charlo will do. We do know that Clay Plant and Canelo are close to finalizing that fight for September 18th, but I'm pretty sure that's going to be a one-fight deal. And then after that, I'm pretty sure Canelo is going to go back to DAZN and fight again because, he's been working with Eddie Hearn. So that Charlo versus Canelo fight, that's just a hope and a prayer. So it's just very interesting to see what's going to go on in the future at 160 pounds for Jermall Charlo, who I believe is 31 years old. And, just entering his prime, man, coming into his prime. There's not much there at 160. It's just not there. And if Canelo doesn't want to come back down and fight, I mean, what you're saying is that we will not see Jermall Charlo fight the best. We will see him fight what's available, just like this Montiel fight. And that was a great fight, great fan-friendly fight. I enjoyed it. Feel like Charlo should have disposed of him a little earlier. Obviously, he hurt his hand. We've seen him with the cast and all of that. So, you give him that. He's a great fighter. Jermall Charlo is a great fighter. And this video is not to demean, talk down, or say anything negative about Jermall Charlo. He's a great fighter. But when you talk about career moves and career-defining fights, his best fight is, beating Julian Williams at 154. And here we are. I think that was his 4th fight at 160, if I'm not mistaken. That Montiel fight. I think he fought Centeno at 160, if I'm not mistaken. Adams, he fought Montiel, Derevyanchenko. So I think that was about his 4th or 5th fight at middleweight. But man, I'm just curious to see what goes on, for Jermall Charlo in the WBC at 160, man. Either way, man, thank y'all for tuning in. Like, comment, subscribe. Make sure you share, show a friend. It's Trilly Trills, the A-Side Boxing Talk. We out.